Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome into another edition of That's What I Think with Brandon Swanson. I'm your fearless host, Brandon Swanson, and this week we are talking about a very serious issue, and that deals with the Hollywood producer and TV mogul, Harvey Weinstein. And I'm sure, as you've probably seen this on other videos on YouTube throughout the news of what's been going on with Harvey Weinstein, and I wanted to talk about that today, talk a little bit about what has happened, who has come out, and what we need to do going forward. So we can just start off with, who is Harvey Weinstein? Well, he started off as this TV producer. Him and his brother Bob ended up kind of merging together, and they formed what was called Miramax. Now, I'm sure you know that from movies such as Pulp Fiction, and then you've got Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Pulp Fiction being one of probably the most popular ones. And Pulp Fiction, I really like that movie. Like it a lot. Don't know if I can like it anymore, knowing that Harvey Weinstein had a hand in it. Also, he did that. He won 7 Tony Awards. He was also an Academy Award winner. And he was a guy who had a lot of money, a lot of power, and a lot of influence in Hollywood. And we're finding out now more and more that he certainly didn't use his powers for good. That is very clear and very sad. So, however, in all those great things and accolades for Harvey Weinstein, that's great. Recently, he was fired by his own board of directors. And he had his Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences stripped. Had it stripped away. He's out of the Academy. This is after multiple counts of sexual assault, sexual harassment, and rape. This is a man within Hollywood that had it all and threw it all away multiple times throughout his career, ruining other people's careers. On October 5th, the New York Times published an article with allegations against Harvey Weinstein. Days later, the New Yorker had an investigation published with accusations from 3 women accusing Harvey Weinstein of rape. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. And then after that report, an investigation by the New Yorker came out. 30 more women came forward. 30 more women. Of those women, Angelina Jolie, Ashley Judd, Gwyneth Paltrow, Kate Beckinsale, and one of the most vocal, Rose McGowan. Rose McGowan, very, very vocal on Twitter, and she actually had her Twitter suspended by Twitter, and she's one of the victims. She came out after Ben Affleck came out and had a very, very heart-wrenching statement, how, terrible this is and how he thinks of, mothers and daughters and sisters and all this stuff. And Rose McGowan basically says, you're part of this. You're part of what allowed this to happen. And it was something on Twitter, and I'm paraphrasing here, basically along the lines of when Affleck found out of something that happened to Rose McGowan, basically his comment was, oh, gosh, dang it, I told him to stop doing that. What? You knew that this was happening and you didn't stop it? You didn't say, hey, this can't happen. You didn't go to the people that it needed to go to. You didn't go to authorities. You didn't go to someone that was going to make this right. Not that you can make this right. You didn't go to that? You didn't go to them? You didn't do your job. You knew about this. And you didn't stop it. But however, we can't just put all the blame on someone like Ben Affleck. We have to put the blame on Hollywood in general. Hollywood in general is at fault, and many of them should be ashamed of themselves. Many of them should be ashamed of themselves because they've known about this for years. This has led to many more people coming out about this in the TV industry, but not just the TV industry. This has also now gone over into the modeling fashion industry, where, you have, let's be honest, beautiful women being on display all the time. You don't think that there's sexual advances against them all the time? You're crazy if you don't think so. You're crazy if you don't believe that there is. 50 anonymous women came out just in the last couple of weeks saying that something did happen to them within the modeling industry. One, you can look at that as how horrific, 50 of them. Two, how relieved they must be. They feel like they can finally come out and say something. But it's still a problem. It's still a problem. John Oliver, HBO comedy host, I think had a great comment. How everyone is coming out against Harvey Weinstein, but yet Bill Cosby, there wasn't much, maybe a little rumbling, but nothing much. And then how about Roman Polanski, who back in 1977 pleaded guilty to unlawful sex with a 13-year-old girl and then fled the country, and there wasn't much of anything. There wasn't much of anything. It was, it happened. We'll just brush it off. Oliver makes a great point. He makes a great point. He also makes a point that we're going to see at the next Oscars people who are up there on stage giving out awards for Best Actress who either had something to do with it, part of covering it up, not saying something about it, and they're up there. Probably they'll give a speech and say how much we need to respect women when they don't do it themselves. Hollywood. Not that we should have ever been surprised before, but it's a bunch of hypocrisy inside of itself. And it's not just Hollywood. It's not just Hollywood. I mean, look at all of these business executives, especially some that have lost their job or been fired because of some sort of allegations against them. Roger Ailes, Fox News. Bill O'Reilly, not an executive, but a big-time guy at Fox News. No longer there. How about Bill Clinton? How about Donald Trump? How about all of these men who have had allegations come against them? Multiple, not one, not two, not three, multiple allegations of these men doing something inappropriate. Sexual assault, sexual harassment. In the case of Harvey Weinstein, rape. This cannot go on. It's disgusting. It's sickening. And the fact that people don't feel like they can come forward when something like this happens is appalling. The amount of stories that came out against Harvey Weinstein, absolutely terrible. That women felt like they couldn't do anything, nowhere to turn. The amount of times that he had them come up to his room and said, I'll get you this position. I'll advance your career if you give me a massage, if you go topless in front of me. Most of the times, this sick animal is in a robe, a bathrobe with nothing else underneath. You're gross, Harvey Weinstein. You're a gross man. You're a gross man. And one of possibly the grossest things about this entire situation is that these women still have the scar, and Harvey Weinstein, with all of his money, with all of his power, with all of his lawyers, is going to go to rehab in some wonderful clinic, I'm sure, that he's paying a ton of money for, and they're going to talk about their feelings. What? You should be in jail. That's where you should be, not some clinic. I know you need help, but they'll help you in jail. I'm sure of it. I'm positive they will. It's just wrong. It's just absolutely wrong. And how many times is this going to happen? In a sense, and I use the word lucky, it's probably not the best word to use, but we're lucky that big name actresses came out against him. If they didn't, would this continue to go on? If some little name actress or some little name person in Hollywood came out and they hadn't made a name for themselves, would it have come out? Would it have even been a story? Would it have even happened? Would we have gotten to this point? Maybe not. But what's going to happen to Jane Doe in a small town in Nebraska when the same thing happens to her? What's going to happen then? Is she going to have to hide? Is she not going to have anywhere to turn to? Well, she should. And I know I'm talking mainly about women here, but I don't want to exclude men from this because it does happen to both sides. An example, Terry Crews at a party A Hollywood exec walked up to him and in front of his wife grabbed Terry Crews's junk. I mean, right there and then. And I know that some people will say, well, that's not as terrible as, what has happened to these women. But it still did happen. It did happen to a male. And it probably happens more often than we'd like to admit from the male side as well. I just want to be able to put that out there, that it's not just female, it's not a gender issue. It's an issue that happens on both sides. Do we see it probably more on the female side? Yes. But it does happen on both sides, and I didn't want to leave the other side out. And before I get into my final point today, it's a quote from one of the 30 women that were assaulted or harassed by Harvey Weinstein. It's, "I never felt supported by anyone other than my family." How sad is that? Your colleagues, your coworkers, the people you work so closely with, you didn't feel any support from them. No support other than your family. That's truly sad. And that's truly a problem. And it needs to change. We all know that this is an issue not just happening in Hollywood. It happens in our own neighborhoods. It happens, unfortunately, sometimes in our own places of business. It happens probably more likely, more often than we'd like to think. So here's a thought. I understand we have HR that people can go to, but sometimes what does HR do? Nothing. How many times in these instances of all these cases did these women talk to people who could have done something, talk to HR? Nothing happened, except they tried to ruin their career. Yeah, that's just not going to work. We need to have support groups within organizations. We need to have a person or a little group like an HR, but not HR, that people can go to when something like this happens, to specifically talk about this issue, to specifically say this happened to me, and that these people who they go to are well trained on how to handle this situation. They know who to go to, they know how to talk about it, they know what to do. HR doesn't necessarily know all those things on what to do or will necessarily do something about it. So that's why I think there needs to be something separate, something much more kind of pinpointed to this issue, because we know it is one. We know it's unfortunately running more rampant than we'd like to think. I'm not saying that that's going to solve the problem, but I'm saying that it may allow people to come forward in an easier way and feel more comfortable about coming forward. That's part of the problem. People don't want to come forward. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to see retaliation. We need to let them know there won't be. There won't be. There will be protection, not retaliation. And that will get you the help that you'll need, will get you everything that you'll need if you're the victim. We need to do more for the people who are the victims and make them not feel like they've been the person who's done something wrong. We have to be proactive, though. We can't just tweet #MeToo. We can't just tweet that. That goes far, but not far enough. We need to continue to make positive change because the next Harvey Weinstein is out there. And we need to crush them before they crush someone else. It's that simple. And that's what I think this week. Thank you again so much for watching. We will be back again next week, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 Central, and 12 Pacific. Again, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next week. So long, everybody.